On today's show, gonna be bringing in a special guest to talk about the state of the Clippers, the Ivica Zubac Brook Lopez conversation, and how our young guys look. Gonna be talking about it all on today's Locked On Clippers.
You are Locked On Clippers, your daily Los Angeles Clippers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Yes, sir. You were locking in with the Clips. Thank you for making Locked On Clippers the first listen of your day, your team every day. I'm your host, Darian Vaziri, born and raised in LA. Been a Clipper fan for 21 years. Been covering the team on my own YouTube channel, Dime Dropper, for 6 and 4 right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day, and now the #1 sports podcast network. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube and hit the notification bell to get us up to 8,000 subscribers before the end of January. And of course, you can listen wherever you get your podcasts. This episode is also brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Head on over to FanDuel.com or download the app and see what's dropping during NBA happy hour every Friday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern. All right, on today's episode, we're going to be talking about the state of the Clippers, the Ivica Zubac Brook Lopez conversation, whether or not we should be buyers or sellers at the deadline, and our young guys. And partaking in the conversation with me today is Money Mona from the Sporting Tribune, covering your LA Clippers. Grant, Money Mona, appreciate you jumping on, man, as always.
It's really good being back on here. I feel like I say this every time I come on, but it's been a while. I know I see you in person, so that kind of makes it better. But yeah, good to be back on Locked On Clippers. And before we get into it, I want to say, a year ago, there was a really big tragedy that happened in our city. And for you to come out strong out of that, for you to do what you've done in the community for the youth and basketball and for your family, man, that goes a long way. And I just want to say shout out to you and everything that you've done since then, everything that you've become. I probably wouldn't be as big as I am if it wasn't for you putting me on this platform initially. So salute to you, man.
Oh, those are really kind words, bro. I appreciate that a lot. And outside of the shout out that I give you on Twitter in the beginning, I don't think I've done like anything. I think that's been all you. You've
take the credit.
Oh man, no, you've built that following because you do great work and you're passionate about the team. And so let's start out with, just the state of this Clipper team. These Locked On listeners always have to hear me talk all the time, but it's nice to hear different perspective. Or maybe it's the same perspective, but what is your take on the state of our team? Obviously, losing. When was the last time we had you on, by the way?
Shoot, it was probably like near the beginning of the season when they were losing a lot of basketball games. So before I think it was before December for sure.
Okay, so 6-21 at one point.
Yeah.
We've now won 6 out of our last 8 games, if I'm not mistaken.
7 of 9.
7 of 9. 7 of 9. Yes, that's right. Yeah, because the Warriors game.
Yeah.
7 out of our last 9 games, with our only 2 losses being to 2 of the better teams, not really just in the Eastern Conference, but in the league, at New York and then a Celtics team. What is your take on the state of the Clippers, 13-23, and just how we're looking going forward?
Yeah, when it was 6-21, it was really bleak. You had to go to being in sell mode. You had to go to think about what comes next after this year. And since then it's been a defensive renaissance, really, since the NBA Cup break, since that moment where they had a lot of time to practice and get their defensive schemes down with Jeff Van Gundy. I think they're 10th in defensive rating since then, which is a lot better than 26th, which is what I think they were before that. So you have that aspect. That's probably the biggest reason as to why they've won 7 of 9 games. Not just that, but obviously, we can't mention the streak without mentioning what Kawhi Leonard did in that 5-game homestand, scoring 55, which was his career high. Then he scored 45, which was his previous career high in the same week. So he averaged around 40 that week, which really propelled the Clippers. He just leveled it up a notch. So him combined with James Harden, Dime, it's crazy because you look at some of the players that are doing well. You look at Kawhi and Harden, right? The Clippers are the only team in the league that have multiple players in the top 16 in points per game. And that is Kawhi at 10th, that is James Harden at 16th. So those guys are playing extremely well. Then you have John Collins, who is shooting like close to 70% from three over the past, I believe, like 2-3 weeks. Then you have the emergence of Kobe Sanders. And I know we'll get to this. We'll get to like the Brook and Zoo kind of combination, the center rotation. But I think it's just like they turned it up a notch. They just decided like, hey, we can't afford to keep losing. We're better than this. So let's like take it up a notch and see what happens. And like you're at the games, you noticed it. Like there's just a different level of intensity. And I know they lost to Boston at home, but that Warriors game was tough. The Knicks game, I felt like they played pretty well. They just lost and they kind of let go of the rope in the fourth quarter. But overall, I think it's the defense and then their stars just really elevating their games.
So yeah, by the way, I just checked the updated PPG. Kawhi Leonard is now 11th and James Harden is now 18th, but I still believe it doesn't prove your stat wrong. We have two guys in the top 18 in scoring, and no other team has that except for the Lakers. Luka Doncic first and Austin Reeves 14th. But yeah, so
it's crazy, both LA teams. And honestly, Reeves being out for that long, I know this is a Clippers podcast, but Reeves being out that long, I mean, it's crazy what those guys were doing before he got hurt. But anyways, like my point being, and I know I got the stat wrong, but my point being is that these guys are playing at such an elite level to where they're like all-star level, and the Clippers are still 13-23, which is insane to me.
Yeah, 13-23. But I will say this. I mean, the Kawhi Leonard, the stretch where we didn't have him was terrible. 2-8. I mean, that was really rough. And then when we got him back, that minutes restriction, I know I've talked about it so much on this show, but I really do feel like it's just so detrimental to try to win basketball games when your best player has a cap on his minutes in close games. You know, you see what kind of difference it's made since he's been able to just have no restrictions. As you said, career highs, one of his best 6-game stretches of his entire career, the best scoring stretch of his entire career. And we are still, sadly, 26th in defensive rating, but in the last 10 games, we're 12th. So we're definitely moving up. What do you think's been the biggest change? You said defensive renaissance. What do you think's been the biggest change for us defensively?
Well, this team switches a lot, and I just feel like having it. Listen, Derrick Jones Jr. made a big difference in the few games that he did come back. And you could, again, we're going to get to the Brook Lopez Zoo thing, but I just feel like it was kind of, I really feel like Kobe Sanders made a big deal there. Nico Batum has been kind of thrown in there. I also feel like John Collins, his on-ball defense has gotten a lot better. Off-ball is still kind of a question mark, and his ball handling is still a question mark. But I just feel like a lot of the roles that we saw early on in the season where these guys were John Collins was thrown in the starting lineup when Kawhi was out. Then Kawhi returns, and it's kind of like, okay, what's my role now? So I think, Dime, it's a little bit of like guys finally finding the role. They're rebounding a little bit better. Like John Collins is upping that rebound total. Kawhi is going up and getting more boards. So you're kind of, and obviously Zoo had the 22-11 game against the New York Knicks. So I just think there's a bigger emphasis on grabbing more boards, attacking the glass. And like that was the philosophy last year with Jeff Van Gundy, was like, we're going to grab the ball. And if the ball is anywhere near our hands, we're going to go try to snatch it. And that just really didn't translate to this year's roster. And I feel like we're starting to kind of see that. Like, I don't know what you're seeing from your perspective, but for me, it just seems like the level of intensity on that defensive end where it's more ball hawking is kind of has returned a little bit. It's not nowhere close to what it was last season, but it's still kind of like I'm seeing flashes of it at least.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say we've seen some flashes of it. I think Collins, as you said, has looked a little better defensively as well. Nico, Yanic, they've had some good moments. Even Kobe Sanders defensively has had some good games. Do you think Chris Dunn has been a little bit more solid the last couple of weeks? Because the one guy that's clearly stepped up his defense, that it's not even like debatable, and I don't even need any stat to tell me, is Kawhi the last 10 or so games. You see it, and you see it in the steal and block numbers. But he's been guarding good players more and being aggressive. And as you said, just putting more pressure on the ball. But I think Chris Dunn is such a big part of what we do. And I feel like he was not the Chris Dunn defensively, as sound defensively as we had seen the first 25 or so games, but it feels like he's been more like himself lately with not gambling as much.
Yeah, there were a lot of times where you would see JVG on the sideline get really mad because he did gamble too much. And I think the whole team kind of tried to do that because of that mentality that I said from last year with the ball hawking type of mentality. But now we're just seeing a more sound defensive approach from Chris Dunn. Like, yeah, he can get his hands in there. He can get his hands in passing lanes, which is a big part of it. But I think it's just playing to the player's strength. Like you saw Kobe Sanders and Chris Dunn against Steph Curry, right? And like people are going to look at Steph Curry's fourth quarter and what he did in that, but over the first three quarters, I felt like those guys did a really good job on him. And I know he put Kobe Sanders to the ground in like his welcome to the league moment, but outside of that, I feel like those guys, the guard defense has kind of gotten really a lot better. And Chris Dunn, like I even asked him about this in the locker room, like what's been the key to your offensive approach? Because Dime, like he's shooting 40%. Well, he was shooting 40% from three. He didn't have a good game against the Knicks, but he's shooting way better than he did last season. And what attributes to that? He said mechanics, but just like believing that I can shoot the ball. And you combine that with what he can do defensively. And like, that's a really good player, right? Because his one knock was, can he knock down the three ball? Like, can he play off of James and Kawhi? Now he's doing that with the defense, like you said, getting better, more sound. It's not a lot of gambling. Like, that is a huge piece of this too. I probably should have mentioned that in the open, but him along with Kobe Sanders, like the youth helps, and having a bigger body at the guard position, that really helps when you're trying to guard up in position as well. So those two things are really crucial.
Absolutely. And coming up, we're going to be talking about the hottest topic in Clipperland right now, the Ivica Zubac, Brook Lopez conversation. I got to tell you a little something about FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Fridays already feel different during basketball season, and FanDuel is making them even better. Every Friday night before the games tip off, FanDuel gives fans a new way to kick off the weekend with NBA Happy Hour. NBA Happy Hour is your official pregame, a limited time window where special offers drop right inside the FanDuel app before the action starts. Fridays from 6 to 7:30 Eastern have become appointment viewing with NBA Happy Hour. Opening the FanDuel app during Happy Hour always brings something new, boosts, bonuses, and surprises. So before tip-off, check the FanDuel app and see what's dropping during NBA Happy Hour every Friday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern. A little basketball, a little action, and a whole lot of Friday energy. That's NBA Happy Hour, only on FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NBA. All right. Thank you for making Locked On Clippers your first listen of the day. And if you haven't already, go check out our new Everydayer Club. It gives you access to an ad-free audio feed for Locked On Clippers compatible with Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and every other major podcast app. And it gives you an invite to the members-only Locked On Everydayer Club Discord server, which includes a group chat just for listeners of this show. Just go to lockedonclippers.supercasts.com. That's lockedonclippers.supercast.com to sign up for the Everydayer Club. Now, Money Mona. There's a topic that's been really, really rampant amongst Clipper Nation the last couple of weeks. And it started with Ivica Zubac getting injured against the Lakers at Intuit Dome, us breaking our losing skid during that game, right? We were 6-21 at that point. And we beat the Lakers. We beat the Rockets without Zubac for the whole game. We beat the Portland Trailblazers in Portland without Zubac for the whole game. And Brook Lopez hits 9 threes in that game. We beat the Detroit Pistons, and Kawhi has a career high in that game. We beat the Sacramento Kings in an absolute blowout without Zoo. And then we destroyed the Utah Jazz without Zoo. And then we saw his return against the Celtics, lost against them, beat the Warriors. Zoo had a double-double in that game, and then we lost to the Knicks. A lot of people have come out and said, Brook Lopez and a lot of people in my Locked On comment section have said, and I haven't done an official episode on this yet, so I'm going to do one of my own opinion fully, but I want to hear, people really think, and I've been asking on the vlogs too, Brook Lopez is better for our team because the pick and pop element and the spacing element, and he clears the paint for Kawhi Leonard and James Harden. Where are you at with this discussion?
This is such a Clippers discussion. I feel like we have just one of these every year. It was like Rocco against Marcus Morris one year. Then it was like, should Amir Coffey be in the rotation? Now are the Clippers better? Like, was Zoo the problem? And you look at some of the numbers and it really doesn't show it. You look at the Celtics game, like Zoo's first game back, and I know he was on a minutes restriction, but the two-man lineup data was like Kawhi Lopez off rating was 94.4. Then, with Kawhi and Zoo, it was 123.5 offensive rating. So, you can point to some of those on-off numbers. You could point to the offensive rating numbers and do that. But I really don't buy into that because, you can go back to the past two seasons, right? And I know they're different teams. You had Norm Powell on the team last year. You had Paul George on the team the year before. But both of those teams had Zoo as their starting center and went on massive runs in the middle of the season, with Kawhi playing at an MVP level in the 23-24 season, with Kawhi playing at a high level at the end of last season when they went 18-3 in their last 21 games. And at the same time that Kawhi was doing his thing and rising to the level of what he got to right before the playoffs and right before that game 82, Ivica Zubac was playing all NBA basketball. He was playing near all NBA basketball. I know he didn't get there, but he was putting up he had his first triple-double late in the season last year. And I'm just going to point to those things and kind of the stretches that Kawhi and Harden have had with Zoo, where there's been a lot of success, as opposed to a 5-game sample of Brook Lopez, where, and I think Justin Rousseau gave me the stat, but this was before the Knicks game. I think this was going in to the Warriors game, that since that 9 3-pointer game by Brook Lopez in Portland, he only made 9 shots in total since that Portland game. And I think it was 10 or 11 because he made a 3 against Golden State. But it's not like Brook Lopez has been lighting it up from 3 since that Portland game. It's not like he has transformed the offense since that Blazers game where he went off for 31 points. So I have not bought into that. I think Zoo is an awesome player. I think that he's really good in the pick and roll with James Harden. Since he's come back, he's done really well off of the short roll, and I think that was something that he struggled at early in the season. But he's done really good out of that short roll and finding guys like Chris Dunn and Derrick Jones Jr. before he got hurt. So I haven't bought into it, Dime. I don't know what you think, but I just don't think – I think a 5-game sample of Brook Lopez having one really good game – I just think Kawhi elevated his game. I just think Kawhi just went to another level, and that's what you can attribute it to.
Okay, so my thing is this. I feel like you can find some kind of on-off numbers or lineup data that will prove either side. I think if I dug deep enough, there are people that can put some kind of data together to say that, oh, look at this. But the sample size, as you said, is very small with this non-Zoo stuff. It's only a couple of games. And it was just, that's what hurt Zoo so much in this argument, is he's already having a little bit of a down year, which you didn't really mention. That he is having a little bit of a down year. I mean, he's down in every statistical category except for free throw shooting this year, where he's at 74%, and last year he was at 66%. But he's down in points, rebounds, assists, and field goal percentage, and minutes for that matter. And I think that's part of where the disappointment comes in. You mix that with him getting injured, and then all of a sudden going on our best stretch of the season. That makes people think something. But I also think that the people that are thinking something, which is that Brook Lopez is a better fit, are a lot of people that doubt Zoo already. And we know there's a lot of people that already doubt Zoo. Now, I'm going to ask you 2 questions, but first question is, let's throw all the numbers aside. Let's throw our personal bias for Zoo aside, because, of course, Zoo is more loved than Brook Lopez in Clippers circles by Clipper Nation. Does your eye test tell you in those games that Kawhi and James Harden are having an easier time scoring?
I wouldn't
Like because of spacing.
I wouldn't say that. I think
Okay.
it's just like there were so many tough shots that Kawhi was making over two defenders. Like they're sending 3 at him at one point, and he was rising up over him. You know, it's not like Zoo would have made a difference there. Like they were still gonna double Kawhi. They doubled Kawhi like the Warriors did multiple times, and it kind of took him out of the game. But I didn't like. I am not seeing that. I'm just seeing a guy like take it to another level.
That's what it comes down to, because I feel like people that are saying these things are just kind of running with something, just kind of running with the fact that, oh, Brook Lopez is a pick and pop 5 and Kawhi and Harden are doing this. But when I look at my eye test, it's not like Kawhi and Harden are blowing by their man and there's no rim protector. Kawhi is still not really blowing by his man.
Hasn't all year.
Right. For a couple of years now, consistently. And he's making really tough shots. And we know that Kawhi has these stretches where he just goes on a heater with his jump shot. That's really what this is. So for me, it's a non-discussion. It's complete. I will say the only game that I saw the defense really react to Brook Lopez was the Pistons first half, because they were literally like Jalen Duren was like staying attached to Brook Lopez coming off screens instead of playing drop coverage or any sort of defense where you stop the ball, which I hadn't seen in so long. And the James Harden and Kawhi were getting line drives, and it was not working out for them. But besides that, as you said, he's not even shooting well. And then there's the defensive and rebounding side where like I even saw like somebody whose basketball opinion I respect say that Lopez is a better rim deterrent still, which I couldn't disagree with more. And then here's my last question before we move on to the last topic. Why is it? Because people are going to say this, and I think it's valid. Why is it that Clipper media people, me included, so we go you, Adam, me, everyone, stick up for Zoo, and we're all unanimously, even if you throw like the twins on there, these bigger quote unquote voices are all pro Zoo, right? Why is that? Because I feel like there's a lot of people that are going to say that we're protecting Ivica Zubac. We have a bias towards him.
I think it's because, first of all, we get to see, like, we've seen Zoo evolve. Like obviously he's still a traditional center. He still has traditional talents, but we've seen him from 2018 to now. So we kind of have a
counter argument. What if the fans say that I've been here for that too? I just disagree with you guys.
Okay, sure. Okay, that's one thing. The other thing is that I just see what he does on the defensive end, like being a defensive anchor, that part of it. And also, I see the work that he puts in. Like, I'm around Zoo a lot. I'm around him pregame. I'm around him in the locker room. Like, I can tell, first of all, how much he cares about the success of the team. When they were losing all those games, he was probably the one that was the most angry about it, because he knew that it wasn't like for a lack of talent. Number 2 is that I just think that him with James Harden, like what James has done for his career, I just think that you can't deny the growth that we saw last year. And people are going to say, like you mentioned it, like he's had a down year in terms of his numbers. But let's just take a look at what he was at the beginning of 2024 to what he is now, and like how people talk about him. Let me put it this way, Dime. There is a reason why there are so many really good teams and good organizations that want Ivica Zubac. There is a reason that people that are national media that get votes for these things had Zoo as all NBA or had him in their defensive player of the year candidacy. Why would the Boston Celtics want Ivica Zubac? Why are there reports that they're interested in him? Why would the Indiana Pacers give up 2 first-round picks for Ivica Zubac? Why would any team want to give up real assets for Zoo? You don't just do that for a backup center. You don't do that for Precious Achiuwa. You don't do that for a standard center in this league. You don't give that up for Nick Richards. You give that up for a premier center in this league. So the league perception of Ivica Zubac is that he is one of the best, not just value centers. Obviously, his contract is very value, but he's literally one of the, probably, if not the best traditional center in the NBA. There's a lot of people that covet what Ivica Zubac brings to a basketball team. And I think you and I, like, we watch games a lot. Like, we go to a lot of games. We watch this team a lot. We see the effect that he has. And I'm not just going to dismiss what Zoo has done for the Clippers because Lopez had the Clippers had 6 good games and he had 1. I'm just not going to do it.
No, well, we're going to piggyback off of that coming up and talk about the conversation about Ivica Zubac and the value that he might have on the market and that all our guys have on the market, plus our young guys. Going to be talking about all that to end the show coming up. I got to tell you a little something about BetterHelp. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. As we roll into the new year, there's a lot of pressure to chase a new you, but sometimes it isn't about reinventing yourself. It's about feeling a little less weighed down. Therapy can help you understand what's been holding you back by giving you an outside perspective on your emotions, motivations, and relationships. And that's why BetterHelp can be such a helpful place to start. Their therapists are fully licensed in the U.S. and work under a strict code of conduct. They help match you with a therapist based on your needs and preferences, so you're not doing all that legwork on your own. BetterHelp has served over 5 million people with more than 30,000 therapists, and live sessions average a 4.9 out of 5 rating across more than 1.7 million client reviews. BetterHelp makes it easy to get matched online with a qualified therapist. Sign up and get 10% off at betterhelp.com/lockedonnba. That's betterhelp.com/lockedonnba. All right. So let's piggyback right off that, Money Mona, about the Zoo thing. I had one more question about it. It's basically a yes or no. Do you think that the access that you guys get, and I guess the lens that I see Zubac with, knowing, because every single one of you guys that it's around Zoo, because I'm not around Zoo, but you guys are around Zoo. I've never actually even met him. You all say that he's like this class human being that's great to be around and that he's the media's dream. Like, everybody loves Zoo in Clipperland in terms of the media and the people around the team. Everyone that works with Zoo thinks he's awesome. Do you think that plus maybe the fact that he's our longest tenured player clouds our judgment of him as a basketball player?
That's a very good question. I will say it has an input in it, but it won't cloud my view of who he is.
Okay.
There's players that have come through here that I've noted that just have played bad, that they should look to like. It's not that Zoo is it makes a difference that Zoo is the longest tenured Clipper and that he's been on the team for multiple eras now, and that he's seemingly wanted, like, he re-upped a contract that he probably didn't even have to sign. Those all make a difference. But when Zoo was playing bad at the beginning of the season, and there were some really ugly nights, like I mentioned it, he's not devoid of criticism either. If Zoo has a bad game, which I felt like he actually did against like Golden State, he was okay, but I felt like he could have been a lot better coming off of the Boston game. And I just don't think that he's going to get away with the criticism. Like, I think he still has things that I would love to see him work on. There's things that I would love to see him maybe improve. But you're right. Like, I feel like that's why a lot of Clipper Nation, and I know a lot of Clipper Nation is on Brook Lopez's side right now, but like, there's a lot of Clipper Nation that still loves Zoo. There's a lot of people that still want him around. And I just think it's not really like the person, but it's like the work that he puts in and the amount of care that this guy has. I will say this, like, on record, when we talked to Zoo after I mentioned, we talked to Zoo after these losses. And this is not to say that nobody else is mad, but he is the most mad. Like, he wants to win. Like, this guy hates losing. And if he plays bad or if he does something wrong down the stretch, like, you could tell when he's sitting at his locker. And like, Nico's an awesome guy with us in the media too. And he's an awesome role player, but like, if he has a bad game, I'll say it. And I think a lot of us will. I just think that we see like the impact that Zoo has on the team. I can't remember this, but like there's on-off numbers with Zoo from the past like 3 years where like when he's off, they are just awful. And then when he's on, they're way better. So it's not just the media and being in that proximity. I think it's just like the kind of player he is, like what he brings to the table.
Yeah, I think a lot of it comes down to that there's a large group of people that don't like the traditional center anymore. And
Yes.
I'm a big sympathizer with the back to basket center. And the reason
Same.
why I'm like that, especially it's funny enough, it's so ironic because I'm like a small guard that never played in the post in my entire life as a kid. It's because growing up in the era that we grew up in, the post game was not an emphasis. So we missed out on actually, you know what though? We saw a lot of great power forwards in the
I was going to
post.
say, yeah.
We saw a lot of great power forwards. Oh God, I met him by the way. I'm gonna say that for the end, but a lot of great power forwards in the post. But at the center position, the best center in the 2000s, late 2000s, was Dwight Howard. Like you and me are like a little young for the Shaq prime. You know, Shaq was the best. Then we had Dwight Howard, who was like a lot of athleticism. He was not as polished in the post. And then, you know, like Boogie was a little bit different. He had pretty good post game, but he wasn't. And we never even saw like Boogie wasn't on the big stage ever.
Right.
And he wasn't like he was still like a lot of a face-up player, pick and pop as well. So when you see a guy, and then we also, as Clipper fans, we had DeAndre Jordan, who was just an athletic rim running freak. So the fact that we have Zoo, I just love that we have a big with post game because I still think it's very valuable, especially with the spacing of today's NBA. Like it's, you know, a lot of double teams happen and stuff, and they're longer when they're doubles with a guy with everybody at the 3-point line. You have so many shooters you can pass it out to and stuff like that. But yeah, I feel like I'm pretty fair with Zoo too. I think I criticize him, but I'm just very. I'm gonna say this. I'm obviously not gonna keep the same, and I think everybody is this in the same boat with this, like the media people. We're probably not going to keep the same energy with Zoo versus Kawhi and Harden because we hold Kawhi and Harden to higher standards.
Right.
These guys are first ballot Hall of Fame guys, and that's the truth. And Zoo hasn't even been an all-star once, and that's the reality. But I also think sometimes Zoo gets neglected by the team in terms of the lack of touches he can get in a game. And,
yes,
you know, Harden and Kawhi, especially Harden, you know, he has a huge chance to make up his mistakes, you know, his turnovers or missed shots, but just more touches. And Zoo doesn't always get that same privilege. So, and I think a lot of it is beyond just like a Harden and Kawhi emphasis. I think it's throwing it down to a big man that's not a star in today's NBA. I think teams are much more anti-post play than they've ever been. But let me ask you this real quick. So I think I try to be fair, but I'm just open that he's my favorite player on the team because of his tenure.
Sure.
Do you think I'm just going to keep it with Zoo in terms of the selling conversation. Do you think we should sell Zoo for, let's say there are 2 first-round picks on the table? Should we sell Zoo, or does it not make sense to sell Zoo unless we're selling everyone?
I think it's the latter of the two that you just said. I think it's if you pivot to that, then by all means, like look for a great offer. But if you're just gonna sell off like 1 or 2, like one guy, and it's Zoo out of anybody,
be horrible.
I don't agree with that at all.
Yeah.
Especially on the contract that he's on. Like we have to understand he is not making big money and he's putting up really solid numbers, even in a down year this year. Like that's why so many people covet him. And that's why maybe someone would throw 2 first rounders at him. But like if you finally like say the Clippers do bad over the next month and it's like, okay, we have to do something. We have to pivot to sell mode. Then you have to listen. But then even at that, I would probably look for something for Kawhi and Harden first,
yeah,
as opposed to Zoo.
And I don't think either is going to happen this year.
I agree.
Frankly. Now, last question real quick. Thoughts on the young guys briefly, Yanic and Kobe Sanders specifically?
That's why a lot of people say, oh, sell, get rid of Zoo because of Yanic and that small sample size. Like, Yanic's still very raw. I love his athletic ability and the fact that he's actually taking threes in the G, but that hasn't translated to the NBA yet. I'm loving what I'm seeing from him, but Kobe Sanders, I think, is real. I think he's special, and I think that they may have something there with the 50th pick in Kobe Sanders. He's got, like, 5-year vet type of play.
I like both. I mean, I think both of them could have good seasons with the Clippers. I wouldn't want to trade Zoo, but I would be okay with experimenting with Yanic over Brook. Although I just think everybody wants that pick and pop big. We'll just see. We'll see by halfway through the season at game 41. Also, random thing that happened to me today. I'm at Sierra Canyon looking at the team that we're playing next week, and Chris Paul walks in the gym. And his son does not play for Sierra Canyon. He plays for Campbell Hall High School team. This is 8th grade. And I think he came for like a kid that was on his club team or something. And this is the close. I mean, I've been to so many Clipper games that CP3's played in that I've never been this close to him where I'm like, can walk past him. Like, I've never been in this situation. And no one's giving him attention. He's like wearing a hat. He's kind of, and the thing about Chris is, I mean, people are saying hi to him, but he seems like he knows a lot of these people. But Chris is not that tall. He doesn't stand out size-wise relative to everyone, which is crazy. So I was just like, I'm like, am I going to say something? Because I feel like I'm going to regret it for the rest of my life if I don't. Like, I've never spoken to Chris before. I've met Blake. So then I went up to him and I'm like, yo, man, I was like, I've been a Clipper fan for 21 years. And I just want to say thank you for everything you did. Like, you gave me my favorite years as a fan. I'm always going to be appreciative of that. And he looked at me and like seemed so touched. He was like, oh, man, appreciate that. And he shook my hand. And I was just like, man, sorry about what happened. I was so like happy just to even have that moment, you know?
Dime, when I got to like interview him multiple times when he first got here, like that was like a pinch me moment. Like, dude, you were a part of like a pretty big part of my Clipper life. And like the fact that I'm 2 feet away from you, interviewing you, insane.
Yeah, it was awesome. So, and then, I did meet Zach Randolph a couple weeks ago too, with seeing his son play. And he was such a nice guy. And I told him to his face, like, I hated you so much. But he was such a good guy though. And he was just like, yeah, those are some good games back in the day. But anyway, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Dime Dropper Pod. Subscribe to my own YouTube channel, Dime Dropper, for even more LA Clipper and LA sports content. And of course, make sure you subscribe to Locked On Clippers. Money Mona, thank you so much for joining me. Let the people know where they can find you.
At GMona48 on X/Twitter, at MoneyMo Media TV on YouTube and TikTok. I post all the time, guys. You can find me everywhere.
Let me know what you guys think in the comment section, Clipper Nation. And Money Mona, we'll definitely make this more regular.
Yes, sir.